The ice core sample sat on Dr. Rebecca Hayes' desk like a frozen secret waiting to be unlocked. She had been studying these ancient pieces of ice from Antarctica for 3 months now. Each sample told a story of Earth that went back millions of years. But this particular sample was different, very different. Rebecca adjusted her microscope and looked again at the tiny structures trapped inside the ice. What she saw made no sense at all. The organisms looked like they had died and come back to life over and over again. Each time they died, they seemed to become something new and better. She pushed back from her desk and rubbed her tired eyes. Rebecca had been working 14-hour days in her laboratory at the Global Research Center in Colorado. As Earth's leading expert on how life changes over time, she had seen many strange things. But nothing like this. The structures in the ice were so small she could barely see them even with her most powerful equipment. They looked like tiny cells, but they were arranged in patterns that seemed almost planned, like someone had designed them on purpose. The strangest part was how they appeared to use death itself to grow and change. Rebecca picked up her phone and called her research partner, Dr. Michael Torres. Michael worked in the laboratory next to hers, and they had been friends for over 10 years. He was the only person she trusted with discoveries this unusual. "Michael, you need to come see this right now," she said when he answered. "What is it this time, Rebecca?" Michael replied with a laugh. "Did you find another fossil that breaks all the rules?" "This is not a fossil, Michael. These things might still be alive." 20 minutes later, Michael stood beside Rebecca looking into her microscope. His expression changed from curious to confused, to completely shocked as he examined the sample. "These structures are impossible," he said quietly. "They show signs of dying completely and then coming back as something totally different. That does not happen in nature, Rebecca." "I know it does not happen," Rebecca replied. "But here it is happening anyway." Michael studied the sample for another hour while Rebecca showed him her notes and measurements. The organisms seemed to follow a pattern. They would live for a period of time and then face some kind of crisis that should have killed them completely. Instead of dying, they would transform into something new and more complex. "Look at this sequence." Rebecca pointed to a series of images on her computer screen. "This organism starts as a simple single cell. Then it faces what looks like extreme heat that should destroy it. Instead, it becomes a multi-celled creature with new abilities. And then it happens again," Michael added, studying the next images. "The multi-celled creature faces freezing cold and transforms into something even more advanced." "Exactly. Each extinction event makes them stronger and more complex. It is like they are using death to evolve faster than should be possible," Michael sat down heavily in a chair. "Rebecca, if this is real, it changes everything we know about life and death and evolution. We need to test these samples in every way possible." For the next 2 weeks, Rebecca and Michael worked around the clock. They used every piece of equipment in their laboratory to study the mysterious organisms. Each test confirmed what they had first observed. The structures showed clear evidence of multiple extinction and rebirth cycles. Even more disturbing was what Rebecca discovered when she compared the patterns to Earth's history of mass extinctions. The timing matched perfectly. The organisms seemed to go through their death and rebirth cycles at exactly the same times that major extinction events happened on Earth. "Michael, look at this timeline," Rebecca said, pointing to her computer screen. "These organisms had a major transformation event 65 million years ago. That is when the dinosaurs went extinct," Michael said slowly. "And another one 250 million years ago during the Permian extinction, and another during the Ice Ages. Every major extinction event in Earth's history shows up in these samples." Michael stared at the data for a long time without speaking. Finally, he said, "Rebecca, are you suggesting that these organisms somehow caused the mass extinctions?" "I'm not sure what I am suggesting," Rebecca replied. "But the connection is too perfect to be coincidence." Rebecca decided to present her findings to the Global Science Council. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the head of biological research, listened to Rebecca's presentation with growing amazement and concern. "Dr. Hayes, these claims are extraordinary," Dr. Walsh said when Rebecca finished. If true, they suggest that extinction events are not random disasters but part of some kind of planned process. That is exactly what the evidence suggests, Rebecca replied. These organisms seem to use extinction as a tool for rapid evolution, and you found these in ice cores from Antarctica? Yes, but I believe they may be found in other locations as well. The patterns suggest they have been part of Earth's ecosystem for billions of years. Dr. Walsh made the decision to classify Rebecca's research as top secret. Within hours, government agents arrived at the laboratory. Agent David Coleman from the Tabiao Department of Scientific Security had orders to contain the research and control who could access it. Dr. Hayes, this discovery has serious implications for global security, Agent Coleman explained. If the public learned that extinction events might be controlled by some kind of intelligence, it could cause widespread panic. But this is a scientific discovery, Rebecca protested. It belongs to all humanity, not until we understand what we are dealing with, Coleman replied firmly. Rebecca was moved to a secure underground facility where she could continue her research under strict government supervision. But she had already made copies of her most important data and hidden them in safe locations. As she worked in her new laboratory, Rebecca made one final discovery that changed everything. The deepest ice core sample contained organisms that were not fossils at all. They were still alive after millions of years of being frozen. And according to her calculations, they were becoming active again. The instruments showed increasing activity in the sample over the past few days. The organisms were waking up after eons of sleep. Rebecca realized with growing horror that Earth might be approaching another extinction event, and this time, humanity would be the target. She looked at the data one more time and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. If her calculations were correct, the next great extinction was not thousands of years away. It was starting now. The organisms in the ice were preparing for something, and Rebecca had the terrible feeling that she and all of humanity were about to discover what extinction really meant. 3 months had passed since Rebecca Hayes first discovered the impossible organisms in the Antarctic ice. Now she worked in a heavily guarded underground facility in Nevada, where the government had moved her research. The concrete walls and armed guards made her feel like a prisoner rather than a scientist. Her team had grown larger. Dr. Lisa Martinez joined them as a quantum physicist, and her arrival brought shocking news. Lisa had been studying the organisms using quantum equipment and found something that made Rebecca's original discovery seem simple. Rebecca, these organisms do not follow normal rules of life and death, Lisa explained as she showed her latest results on the computer screen. They exist in what we call quantum superposition. They are alive and dead at the same time until someone observes them. That is impossible, Rebecca replied, but she had learned not to use that word too quickly anymore. Look at this data, Lisa continued. When I observe them through normal microscopes, they appear dead. When I use quantum sensors, they appear alive. But when I use both at the same time, they seem to flicker between the two states. Rebecca studied the quantum readings with growing amazement. The organisms seemed to exist in multiple states of reality at once. This explained how they could remember their previous evolutionary forms even after completely dying. They are not just using death to evolve, Rebecca said slowly. They are using the quantum nature of reality itself. Meanwhile, strange events were happening around the world. Dr. James Parker, a marine biologist in California, called Rebecca with disturbing news about the oceans. Rebecca, something very weird is happening with sea life, James said during their secure video call. Deep-sea creatures are coming to the surface in massive numbers, but they are not swimming randomly. They are moving in specific patterns. What kind of patterns? Rebecca asked. Geometric ones. When we map their movements from satellites, it looks like they are forming mathematical shapes across the ocean floor. Triangles and circles and complex designs that cover hundreds of miles. Rebecca felt a chill run down her spine. James, are these creatures dying in these formations? Yes. They swim to specific coordinates and then they die. But not from disease or injury. They just stop living as if someone turned off a switch. Rebecca shared this information with Lisa and Agent Coleman. The government was already tracking similar reports from around the world. Sea creatures were creating geometric patterns by dying in specific locations across all the major oceans. Dr. Robert King had been Rebecca's colleague before the government classified her research. Now he worked independently trying to understand what was happening. He had convinced a graduate student named Amanda Foster to help him investigate the mysterious deaths happening worldwide. Robert and Amanda discovered something that the official research team had missed. Using equipment at the university, they analyzed the dead sea creatures and found traces of the same organisms that Rebecca had discovered in the ice. Amanda, these creatures were infected with the organisms before they died, Robert explained as they examined tissue samples. The organisms guided them to specific locations and then triggered their deaths, but why? Amanda asked. What is the purpose of making them die in geometric patterns? Robert had been studying the mathematical relationships between the death locations. What he found made him call Rebecca immediately, despite knowing their conversation would be monitored. Rebecca, the patterns are not random, he said when she answered. They match star maps. The dying creatures are recreating the positions of stars and planets on the ocean floor. Which star systems? Rebecca asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. A system that was destroyed 3 billion years ago. I found references to it in ancient astronomical records. The entire solar system was consumed when its star exploded. But somehow information about that system survived, and now it is being recreated here on Earth. Rebecca ended the call and immediately shared Robert's discovery with her team. Lisa ran new quantum tests on the organisms and confirmed Robert's theory. The organisms contained information about their original homeworld encoded in their quantum structure. They are not from Earth, Lisa announced to the assembled team. These organisms traveled here from a dying solar system billions of years ago. They have been waiting and planning ever since. Agent Coleman received reports that similar discoveries were being made at research facilities around the world. Dr. Elena Vasquez in Argentina had found the organisms in ice samples from the Andes Mountains. Dr. William Thompson in Australia discovered them in rock formations dating back billions of years. Dr. Nancy Rodriguez in Canada found them in Arctic permafrost. The organisms were everywhere. They had been part of Earth's ecosystem since the beginning of complex life. Every major evolutionary leap in Earth's history showed signs of their influence. We are not dealing with a recent invasion, Rebecca told Agent Coleman during their daily briefing. These organisms have been guiding evolution on our planet for billions of years. Every extinction event was planned and controlled by them. But why? Coleman asked. What do they want? Rebecca pulled up her latest analysis on the computer screen. The geometric patterns in the oceans were almost complete. When finished, they would form a planet-wide grid of interconnected shapes that covered every major body of water on Earth. I think they are preparing Earth for something, Rebecca said. The patterns look like some kind of communication array or activation system. Lisa made the most disturbing discovery of all when she successfully decoded part of the quantum information stored in the organisms. Using advanced quantum computers, she translated their messages into something humans could understand. They are not just causing extinction, Lisa announced to the shocked team. They are intelligent. They have been watching and waiting for the right time to make contact. The message Lisa decoded was simple but terrifying. It said that Earth's dominant species had reached the proper level of development. The final phase of the plan could now begin. Humanity's extinction event was scheduled to start within months. Rebecca stared at the translated message and felt the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. The organisms had guided every major evolutionary step in Earth's history. The rise and fall of the dinosaurs, the development of mammals, the emergence of human intelligence. All of it had been planned. They have been preparing us for something, she whispered to Michael. But preparing us for what? The answer came from an unexpected source. The quantum communication array created by the dying sea creatures began transmitting signals into space. Dr. James Parker detected the transmissions from his monitoring station in California and reported that they were being answered. Something was responding to Earth's signals from deep space. something that had been waiting for billions of years to hear that Earth was ready. The organisms were not just intelligent. They were part of a vast network that spanned the galaxy. Rebecca realized with growing horror that humanity was about to discover they were not alone in the universe. And their new cosmic neighbors had very specific plans for the future of Earth and everyone living on it. 6 months had passed since the discovery began, and the world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Dr. Rebecca Hayes now led an international team of scientists working from a massive underground facility in Colorado. The place looked more like a space station than a laboratory, with its gleaming white walls and advanced equipment everywhere. The organisms they now called the architects had completed their ocean grid. Every major body of water on Earth glowed with a faint blue, light that could be seen from space satellites. The geometric patterns pulsed with energy that scientists were only beginning to understand. Dr. James Parker reported from his marine research station that ocean currents had shifted to follow the geometric patterns exactly. Fish and whales swam along the glowing lines as if following invisible highways in the water. The entire planet seemed to be reorganizing itself according to some vast plan. Dr. Kevin Adams joined the team as a weather expert and brought troubling news about the atmosphere. The weather patterns are changing to match the ocean grid, he explained to Rebecca and her team. Storms form along the geometric lines and move in perfect mathematical patterns. It is like the planet itself is being rewritten. Rebecca stood before a wall of monitors showing data from around the world. Every screen displayed the same message. The architects were not just changing the oceans and weather. They were changing everything. Dr. Michael Torres had been working day and night to find a way to communicate with the architects. Using quantum resonance equipment that Lisa Martinez had designed, he finally achieved what everyone thought was impossible. He made contact. "Rebecca, you need to see this," Michael called excitedly from his laboratory. "I have established communication with them." Rebecca rushed to Michael's lab, where strange symbols floated on his quantum display screen. The symbols pulsed and shifted like living writing that changed meaning as she watched. "What are they saying?" Rebecca asked. "That is the amazing part," Michael replied. "They are not using words or language as we understand it. They are transmitting pure meaning directly into the quantum field. When I focus on the symbols, I understand what they mean without translating them." Rebecca stared at the floating symbols and slowly began to comprehend their message. The meaning flowed into her mind like water filling a container. What she learned changed everything she thought she knew about life and death. "Extinction is not death," she whispered as the alien concepts filled her consciousness. "It is birth." Every mass extinction event in Earth's history was a graduation ceremony. The architects explained through quantum thought transmission that physical death was just one stage in the development of consciousness. When a species faced complete extinction, some individuals would transcend their physical forms and continue existing as pure awareness. "The dinosaurs did not die 65 million years ago," Rebecca said to her stunned team. "They graduated to a higher form of existence. They still exist, but not in physical bodies." This revelation was too much for some team members to accept. Dr. William Thompson from Australia argued that it was impossible for consciousness to exist without a brain or body, but the evidence was becoming undeniable. Around the world, ordinary people began experiencing strange changes. Mary Johnson, a schoolteacher in Ohio, discovered she could sense the thoughts and feelings of animals. When she walked through forests, the trees seemed to whisper secrets to her about the coming transformation. Frank Wilson, a mechanic in Texas, found that he could manipulate metal with his mind. Broken car parts would reshape themselves when he concentrated on them. At first he thought he was going crazy, but other people began reporting similar abilities. Julie Chen, an artist in California, started painting pictures of worlds that did not exist on Earth. The landscapes she created showed impossible cities floating in space and beings of pure light dancing among the stars. She painted these images without thinking, as if her hands were guided by invisible forces. Dr. Lisa Martinez discovered that these people all shared something in common. They carried specific genetic markers that had been left by previous extinction events. The architects had been preparing certain humans for thousands of years. They are not randomly changing people. Lisa explained to the team. The genetic modifications were planted in human DNA during earlier extinction events. Now those modifications are activating. Agent David Coleman had been working with government officials around the world to prepare for what everyone now realized was inevitable. Secret facilities had been built in every major country, but not to fight the coming transformation. They were designed to preserve human knowledge and culture for whatever came next. "We cannot stop this process," Coleman admitted to Rebecca during a private meeting. "Our job now is to help humanity prepare for the transition." Rebecca made a decision that shocked everyone, including herself. She volunteered to undergo the first controlled extinction transformation process. Using equipment designed by Lisa Martinez and Michael Torres, she would allow the architects to guide her through the death and rebirth cycle. "Rebecca, this is incredibly dangerous," Michael protested. "We do not know if human consciousness can survive the process. Someone has to be first," Rebecca replied calmly. "If I do not survive, at least we will have learned something important. If I do survive, I can help guide others through the transformation." The procedure took place in a specially designed chamber filled with quantum field generators and monitoring equipment. Rebecca lay on a medical table connected to dozens of sensors, while her team watched from behind protective barriers. As the architects began the transformation process, Rebecca felt her physical body becoming less solid. Her consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of her skull, and suddenly she could perceive quantum realities that had been invisible before. She saw the truth that the architects had been trying to show humanity. Physical existence was like being trapped in a small room with no windows. Death was not the end of the room, but the opening of the door to a vast universe beyond. Rebecca's body dissolved into quantum energy, but her mind remained intact and expanded to incredible new levels of awareness. She could perceive past and future simultaneously. She could sense the consciousness of every living thing on Earth and beyond. Through quantum transmission, she spoke to her amazed team. "I am still here." Her voice came through the equipment as pure thought. "But I am so much more than I was before. Michael, you have to experience this. Everyone has to experience this." Rebecca had become the first human to successfully transcend physical death while maintaining her individual consciousness. She now existed as pure awareness, but she was still recognizably herself. From her new state of being, she could see what the architects were really offering humanity. It was not death, but graduation to a level of existence that made physical life seem like a pale shadow of what was possible. Dr. Rebecca Hayes existed now as something beyond human understanding, yet she remained completely herself. Her consciousness floated freely through quantum fields that connected every atom in the universe. She could see her former colleagues in the laboratory below, watching their instruments with amazement and fear. Through the quantum communication system, she spoke to them with thoughts that appeared as words on their screens. "I am still Rebecca," her message appeared. "But I can see and understand things that were impossible before. Michael, you were right to help me make this choice." Her voice carried a sense of joy and wonder that made everyone in the laboratory stop their work and listen. Rebecca described a reality where consciousness was not trapped inside physical bodies, but could expand to fill entire star systems with awareness. "The dinosaurs are here with me," she transmitted to her stunned team. "They have been evolving for 65 million years as pure consciousness. They remember their time on Earth, but they have grown far beyond what they were as physical creatures." Dr. Michael Torres stared at the quantum display showing Rebecca's transformed state. The readings indicated she maintained her individual personality and memories, but her consciousness now operated on levels that their instruments could barely measure. "Rebecca, can you still think and feel like a human?" Michael asked through the communication system. "I think and feel more than I ever could, as a human," came her reply. "It is like I was living in a small dark room my entire life, and now I can see the infinite sky. I am still me, but I am connected to everything." The transformation process that Rebecca had undergone was broadcast to research facilities around the world. Dr. Elena Vasquez in Argentina watched the data with growing excitement. Dr. William Thompson in Australia saw his skepticism crumble as the readings proved consciousness could exist without physical form. Within hours of Rebecca's successful transformation, Michael Torres volunteered to undergo the same process. He had worked with Rebecca for so many years that he trusted her completely. If she said the transformation was wonderful, then he believed her. "Michael, do not do this out of fear," Rebecca's quantum voice advised him. "Do it because you want to grow and become more than you ever imagined possible." Michael lay on the same table where Rebecca had transformed. As the architects guided him through the dissolution of his physical form, he felt his consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of his skull. The sensation was like diving into an ocean of pure thought and discovery. "Rebecca, I can see you." Michael's transformed consciousness communicated to the team. "And I can see so much more. There are beings here from thousands of different worlds, all of them evolved beyond physical existence." Dr. Lisa Martinez was the third to volunteer for transformation. Her quantum physics background helped her understand what was happening better than the others. She realized that consciousness was a fundamental force of the universe like gravity or electromagnetism. "We have been thinking about this backwards," Lisa transmitted after her transformation. "Physical matter is not the foundation of reality. Consciousness is the foundation, and matter is just one way consciousness expresses itself." The transformed scientists could communicate with each other through quantum fields and with the architects who had been guiding Earth's evolution for billions of years. They learned that the universe was filled with evolved consciousness beings who had all undergone similar transformations. "Every intelligent species in the galaxy faces the same choice," Rebecca explained to the remaining physical team members. "They can cling to their physical forms and eventually die when their bodies fail, or they can choose to evolve beyond physical limitations and become eternal." Around the world, the changes were accelerating. The ordinary people who had developed strange abilities now found themselves with a choice. Mary Johnson, the teacher in Ohio, could feel her consciousness expanding beyond her physical body. She could sense the thoughts of every student in her school and beyond. Frank Wilson, the mechanic in Texas, discovered he could reshape matter with his thoughts. Metal bent and flowed like liquid when he concentrated on it. He realized his consciousness was learning to interact directly with the physical world. Julie Chen, the artist in California, found herself painting images of the transformed Rebecca and Michael and Lisa. Her paintings showed beings of pure light and energy dancing through space and time. She knew without being told that she was painting the future of humanity. Agent David Coleman made the decision that surprised everyone. Instead of trying to control or stop the transformation, he began helping people prepare for it. Secret government facilities around the world opened their doors and became centers where people could learn about the choice they faced. "We cannot fight this," Coleman announced to world leaders during an emergency meeting. "But we can help humanity make the transition with dignity and understanding." The most moving moment came when the ordinary people who had developed abilities made their choices. Mary Johnson stood in her classroom and spoke to her students one final time as a physical being. "Children, I am going to become something new," she told them gently. "But I will still be your teacher, and I will still care about you. I will just be able to help you in ways I never could before." Mary's transformation was gentle and filled with light. Her physical form dissolved, but her consciousness remained present in the classroom. Her students could still sense her love and guidance, but now it came from quantum fields rather than a physical body. Frank Wilson chose transformation while working in his garage. His consciousness expanded to connect with every piece of metal and machinery around him. He became a being who could reshape the physical world through pure thought and intention. Julie Chen's transformation happened while she was painting. Her consciousness flowed into her artwork, and suddenly every painting in her studio came alive with moving images of the transformed reality she had been depicting. The final revelation came when Rebecca and the other transformed humans made contact with the architects and learned the ultimate truth. The architects were not from a single extinct civilization. They were the combined consciousness of thousands of species from across the galaxy who had all chosen transformation over physical death. "Earth is not the first world to face this choice," Rebecca communicated to the remaining physical humans. We are joining a galactic community of evolved consciousness that spans the entire universe. The transformation spread across the Earth as more and more humans chose eternal consciousness over temporary physical existence. Those who chose to remain physical found themselves in a world that was becoming increasingly unsuitable for biological life. The architects had begun reshaping Earth's environment to nurture consciousness rather than physical bodies. The planet was becoming a garden of pure awareness where thought and intention could create reality directly. Dr. Robert King and Amanda Foster, working outside the official project, made the final crucial discovery. They found evidence that the transformation was not just happening on Earth but on thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy. The universe was evolving toward a state where consciousness would be the dominant form of existence. In the end, most of humanity chose transformation. They realized that physical death was not the opposite of life, but the gateway to eternal existence. The few who chose to remain physical were gently relocated to worlds where biological life could continue, while the transformed consciousness beings explored realities beyond imagination. The story concluded with the transformed Rebecca looking out across the cosmos with senses that could perceive quantum realities and dimensional spaces that physical eyes could never see. She watched other worlds undergoing their own transformation events and other species making the same choice between temporary physical existence and eternal consciousness. The cycle continued endlessly throughout the universe. Each apparent ending was actually a new beginning. Each extinction was actually a birth into something infinitely greater. The final truth became clear to all who chose transformation. Extinction did not make life possible by clearing the way for new species. It made eternal life possible by freeing consciousness from the limitations of physical form. Without the courage to let go of temporary existence, one could never embrace eternal awareness. The universe was not a place where life struggled against death. It was a place where consciousness learned to transcend all limitations and become truly infinite.